Hey,
Hey,
how are
how you
you?
doing? Good. How's it going?
Good. Are you cooking again?
No, this time I cooked earlier. But
Okay.
I am in the kitchen thinking about grabbing some. I don't know. You know when you always just chilling over here, just you're thinking something's gonna pop up in the fridge. When nothing pops up, it's just the same old stuff.
Yeah.
You realize you just gotta go be an adult and go to this supermarket.
Yeah. That's the worst thing. I can't remember the last time I went into a supermarket. Have you done the Instacart thing?
No, but I've heard only like crazy things about it. It's just like they just shows up at your house, right? You just order whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, I do enjoy just doing that whole little supermarket thing here and there, but maybe I'll try the Instacart.
Yeah. It's fun. It's like a you feel really bougie when you do it. You're like, bring
Yeah,
me my groceries. I'm a very important person.
bring me my groceries. That's great.
So I'm curious, obviously, I know you're just coming off of a fight and you're about to fight again. How soon after that last fight did you start training again or like really get into a fight camp?
So I gave myself about a week. Because my body, yes, I mean the fight was fast, but my body was so sore after from the adrenaline. Your body literally is hurting like 3 days after, just from thinking about you're about to go to war. So I let that usually cool down because I don't want to train and get hurt with that. But I was back in the gym, yeah, that Monday, if not Monday, Tuesday, you know. So I waited a whole week. I think the UFC in Miami was the week after. So I went to that, I enjoyed that, got to see all the other fighters go through a stressful moments and there. I was happy I did my part. Obviously that was George's last fight too, so I wanted to go there support him. And yeah, I was back in there by the next week. Didn't do anything crazy, I want to stay focused for the second round. Um just to really get some points in there and solidify that semi spot. Um, and then maybe go, to Costa Rica or something like that real quick
I was
to
gonna
really
say
enjoy myself.
you can't
Yeah,
really, yeah, you can't really like pig out like you would after like a UFC fighter fighting. They're like, well, I may
yeah.
not have another fight for 6 months. They can kind of let them not let themselves go, but let themselves go for a night. Do you are you able to do that at all?
To pig out.
Yeah.
I did, and I I paid for it for a little bit. Especially, I stayed in Vegas like a day or two after my fight with my girlfriend and her parents, and man, I was eating so much food on that strip. It's crazy. It was bad. I was like, I can't do this next time we fight here. Like, I gotta go to like a Whole Foods or something. You know what I mean? Because it was crazy. It was like if it wasn't barbecue, it was steak. If it wasn't like a big steak, it was something fried. And and I'm loving myself. I'm still buzzing because I won my fight. So I'm just eating anything. I'm a small light heavyweight, but I still don't eat crazy.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it felt good. It felt good, but I'm happy I'm back on track.
You mentioned that, you have that adrenaline and you can't go back. You don't want to go back too soon and injure yourself. How different is it for you to train with fighters that they don't have that same, I mean, obviously none of you guys want to get injured, of course, but they they know like I can just push the fight 2 weeks or if something happens, like with you,
Oh
if you
yeah.
make that fight, like that's it.
Yeah. So I learned, especially with last year when I separated my AC joint in that first round. I was scheduled to fight Swordy and I couldn't fight Swordy. I was a week before. Um that's when I realized, like, damn man, like, just sometimes you you might not be as ready as you want to be, but just get to the fight and play your cards right over there. You know, don't try to be a tough guy through the whole camp, and then you get to the fight feeling like crap. You know what I mean? And you rather feel good than try to be a tough guy. And have a great camp. next thing you know, you're hurting, but you can't push these fights back in PFL. They're going to replace you with somebody else, and I bet you they're fast to do it too. Who doesn't want to win $1 million? you know so it's
Yeah.
not really it's not really a pushback, right? It's a replacement. It's totally different than what we're used to.
Yeah, yeah, it's a different way of thinking. I assume it must be difficult when, I mean, I know that you are training with some people also in the tournament, but a mass majority of that gym is not in that same mindset.
For sure, for sure. And we have a lot of guys that are competing in the PFL in different divisions, and it's funny you said that. It's like we're all kind of, even though I have teammates that are in my weight class, we all kind of band together in a weird way. We're just always kind of like, hey, how's it going? How you feeling? How you doing? We're all, every day kind of asking, because we know the days are coming to the time where we got to go back in there and get after it again. So it's like, how you feeling? Do you feel good? We don't, the PFL, it's so quick to see a replacement happen, you know. How we even ask about your opponent. How's your opponent doing? You check on him. Is he doing okay? Is he ready? Because you don't want to deal with that stress. But it's part of it. It's part of it. If you're gonna win $1 million, there has to be these different obstacles you have to get through. So I feel like an American Top Team is right in your face. You're seeing the competition every day,
Yeah.
whether you want to or not. Um, yeah.
How soon after the fight did you know who you were going to be fighting? Because I know we didn't find out till I think last week, but how soon did you know?
um, so I think I I found out kind of last week as well, but it was you can never, like, in the beginning of the year, I thought I was gonna fight Jocko. And me and
Oh,
Jocko talked about it, and we heard through the grapevine, what I mean? Like, hey, we're gonna, all of a sudden, boom, I had a different opponent. He had a different opponent. We high five each other. We're like, yeah, dude. But we already had a conversation about it, like, hey, and I was like, man, it sucks, but we're gonna have to do it. This is part of the business. So last week when I found out it was gonna be Dylan, right? Um, I was like, okay, I whatever, but I won't believe it till I see it. You know what I mean? I won't believe it till I see it, like, posted, like PFL posting that. Now I'm like, right on, because you never know. You never know, not just with PFL, any fight organization, even on the top levels, this crazy stuff are happening all the time. You know, Chimaev misses 12 pounds. Next thing you know, you have 3 fights change up in a matter of hours. Come on,
yeah.
if this it happens. This is the
Yeah.
crazy business. What can you expect? We've got guys fighting with 4-ounce gloves, acting crazy out there. There's is exactly what I expect. Crazy, chaos, random. You don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know. Makes it feel crazier, right? Just more entertaining.
And it must be different too, because traditionally, and I'm assuming that they're not doing this, but traditionally you would be given a name of an opponent and a date, and you would sit with your manager or your coach and go, yeah, maybe let's. But this, you're just sort of like, I'm just given a name. I don't have a choice, right? I'm assuming you can't be like, nah, I don't want to fight him.
Yeah, no, no, I mean, I'm sure we all have that option. I don't want to fight him, but I'm sure that it won't sit well with the PFL. I'm sure that won't sit well with any organization. That's the whole purpose about being a fighter, right? Of course, you want to try to get smart fights, but um, I think in this particular situation, you got to really be a believer in yourself, and you can't push a fight back. You can't just take the easy way out. You have to find an ability, a way to win, and keep pushing forward with the way the PFL strategize. Or because I know guys who are breaking their backs to try to get into an organization like uh the UFC, but they're easily could get into the PFL, but there's something about that name they want to get to, right? The UFC, this and that. But the way the PFL is, there's guys that would kill to get in there. You know what I mean? So if something replaces, or if somebody gets knocked out, those guys who are training so hard to get to the UFC, those guys will get easily get into the PFL. So if you don't want to fight, I'm sure that's a ticket to never getting a job ever again.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You better pull up an X-ray or something. You
Yeah.
know, say that you're hurt.
So, I mean, aside from the fact that you weren't quite sure for sure, he was going to be your opponent, what did you think when you got that matchup in terms of how you stack up against him?
So the funny thing about Dylan, I gotta say with an accent, right? It's not Dylan, it's
Yeah.
Dylan. Um, the funny thing about him and I've actually trained with him for quite a bit during my amateur years. So right after I graduated from Arizona State, I stayed in Arizona to do my amateur fights because at the time Arizona didn't have no padding. So you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference from an amateur fight to a pro fight. The only difference was it was a 3 minute round versus a 5 minute round. So I stayed in Arizona. I trained with Ryan Bader and Power MMA, CB Dalloway, Aaron Simpson, some good old fashioned wrestlers, that really made some noise during their time. So I had a good little group of guys I trained with. And all of a sudden Bader brought a guy in from Brazil named Jai. Jai is made a team called Kimura, and they're from Novo União, which Andre Pedernera, I don't know if you know this guy, that's basically a whole nother team from Brazil. But Bader brought one of these guys here. And basically, when he brought this coach here, this coach would bring fighters. And Dylan was one of the fighters he brought. And at the time, I was still an amateur. I was training with Dylan, and he was probably 3-0, 4-0 as a pro. You know what I mean? Something like that. Some nothing too crazy. But we scrapped it up a little bit, and obviously I was fairly new into my MMA career. I was raised with MMA, but it's different than being raised in it and then actually doing it, on a daily basis. So we had good moments, and I know that was a long time ago. I know I'm way better than what I was then, but I gave him some problems. I'm not gonna lie, you know what I mean. Just as an amateur fighter, though, um, ex D1 wrestler, you know. But yeah, I think the fight's a great matchup for me. I think any fight's a great matchup for me. Obviously, I have that in the back of my mind. How the training went years ago. It's good to have that feel. But but yeah, I think it's a great matchup. I think he's gonna have a hard time dealing with the pressure and the wrestling that I bring.
Would you consider him a friend? Like, did you guys at the last event, did you like chop it up at all, or it was
Yeah,
is
we
it just
we
like so
always
far?
we always chop it up. We always talk, and I actually once the PFL posted something on Instagram, um, or publicly, like when they posted it, I actually sent him a voice message on Instagram, and I was like, hey, who would ever thought this day would come to and it is what it is, just this the business, you're my friend before the fight, you're gonna be my friend after the fight. You're my friend during the fight. I just gotta have to, do my business, and you're gonna have to do what you gotta do. And yeah, I'm a pretty cheerful guy. I could get through those conversations pretty easy. I don't know if he feels like, the same, but it is what it is. This MMA world's not that big. You're friends with everybody. Everyone's a friend of someone's or this or, and what better way to scrap it up? You know,
I
that's
know
what friends are for.
the last time we talked, we discussed like what it was like fighting a teammate. And I know obviously this upcoming opponent's not a teammate, but with that history there, are you kind of excited to test out, as you had mentioned you thought maybe you needed to have more fun. So I'm wondering if you're gonna kind of use that as a test of what it would be like to fight somebody you like again and see if maybe the outcome could be different.
Yeah, I mean the difference between Dylan and then me fighting like Omari, Omari, we trained a lot, and it was very, I would call it more recent training than Dylan. I was, I mean, it was like 23, 24. I was a young gun, running around crazy Arizona State kid. So it was definitely a different time. So I think this time when I fight Dylan, like a friend, I don't think it's gonna be as tough as it was fighting Omari. I think I'm gonna be able to do exactly, bad intention stuff to him, and I'll give him a hug right after, and stuff like that. But I know he's gonna try to do it to me. You know what I mean? I know the gym he trains with. I know the attitude they bring when they fight. Um, just every other fight he fights, I mean, sometimes he has bad performances, but he brings the heat. The fight with Wilkinson and stuff, he tried knocking his head off a couple times. He's like kill with the sword or die by the sword, whatever that saying is. Kill by the sword or die by the sword. That's his attitude. So I'm I'm respecting his power, and I'm gonna find my way to end this fight the way that Josh Silveira does his thing. So yeah,
And I guess my last question for you, I'm sure you had a chance to, I'm assuming you had a chance to watch 2022's champ fight Thiago Santos. I'm just curious what you thought of that fight and if you see either of those opponents in a different light now that they've had that fight.
yeah. It was a good fight. Obviously, I was cheering on Thiago. He's my teammate. But Thiago, he has shown Thiago and Rob, they're experienced guys, but the difference is I think Thiago has a lot of mileage on his body, especially after the Jones fight when he tore his ACLs and stuff like that. Um, you know, if it was a younger version of Thiago, I'm sure it would have, we that those days you never knew with that guy. He always bring the heat. And I think it was a good perspective to see, like, how MMA can really be tough on the body and stuff like that. We all were expecting to see like a banger fight, right? That it was more of like a grappling match, a good grappling match too. Rob grappled very well, but I see it a difficult fight for both of them. If you know, I have to compete either one of them. If we have to fight each other, especially in the grappling department. Obviously those guys have some power. But I see myself as a hard match for anybody in the division. You know, but yeah, man. I wish he would have won that fight. Kind of sucks he lost, but it's why we have the season set up the way it is.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes it exciting for the second round now.
Yep. You'll be there
Uh for I think so. Week one, you're doing week one, right? Or I guess week
June
four,
8th.
technically. Yes, I
Yeah.
should be there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it a lot. Definitely.
See you in
Whenever you want.
Atlanta.
See you in Atlanta. Overtime.
Bye.
Bye.